All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you again to everyone joining today. This is the webinar on how Amazing Charts PM can increase productivity and workflow in your practice. My name is Katie Phelan. I am one of the training specialists here at Amazing Charts. So today we're going to do a brief overview of the integration between Amazing Charts and Amazing Charts Practice Management. And if you're not already a client of ours, it gives you an opportunity to see how this integration works between the two systems. So if you're currently using Amazing Charts and using another practice management system, this is a way of you to see if practice management is going to be a good fit for your practice. After today's webinar, if you are interested in getting a deeper dive demo more specific to your practice, you can reach out to our sales department. We have plenty of people on this side that will be able to provide those one-on-one demos to you. I'll also be having one of our sales reps joining the session. So if there are any questions regarding the sales process, they'll be able to answer those for you. Right now, everyone on the webinar is currently muted, and I'm going to keep it that way. But if you'd like to send your questions throughout the webinar today to me, in the participant panel of the webinar, down towards the bottom, you should see a questions option or a chat option. If you click on the plus sign next to one of those, it will expand the box and you can just type in your question and send it to me privately. I have left time at the end of today's webinar to answer any questions that come through throughout the session. We're also recording this webinar, so if there's anybody in your practice that was unable to attend today, or if you accidentally forgot about the webinar and joined a few minutes late, we'll be able to get a copy to you after the webinar. We will be sending it to all of the registrants, so even those that were unable to attend. So now I'm going to bring up the agenda for today. Everyone should be able to see my intro slide. If you cannot, you may want to go to the bottom of your screen and click on the blue flower. I know sometimes when people first join the webinar, they're not able to see my screen that I'm displaying. So if you click on the little blue flower at the bottom, you should then be able to see my screen. So the agenda for today's webinar, we're going to start talking about the ACPM integration, so how you actually access Amazing once you are installed. We're then going to talk about the front desk workflow, so you'll be able to see, how streamlined and, the check-in and check-out process can be for your practice. We're then going to talk about some of the billing aspects out of ACPM. So you'll be able to see, for your providers, how the actual billing will happen from AC to ACPM, and then you'll be able to see how the claims actually get batched and generated out of the system. And we'll also take a quick peek into our Clearinghouse Portal that our clients have direct access to, so that you can view claim status for your claim batches and also perform other tasks. We'll then also discuss the payment posting process in Amazing Charts Practice Management. So you'll get to understand, when those insurance payments come back, how they get brought into the practice management system and how you're going to manage those. And then finally, we'll talk about the reporting options available to our clients in Amazing Charts Practice Management. So I'm now showing Amazing Charts, and we're starting here because if you don't already know, Amazing Charts Practice Management is a single sign-on process for our Amazing Charts users. So your login information does not change once you're installed with the practice management system. So you won't have to worry about remembering a separate username and password when you are installed. You would continue to log into Amazing Charts just as you do today, but we would build links in your Amazing Charts practice that would allow you to then easily access Amazing Charts practice management. So of course, there are going to be staff in your office that are going to need to be able to navigate from one system to another throughout the day, because your Amazing Charts is still going to be where all of the clinical information for your patient is stored and managed. But the practice management is where you would perform, anything that would be required from a billing standpoint. So that's, managing the patient's demographics and chart and insurance information, the schedule, and also the billing, of course. So you can see on the main screen of my Amazing Charts, right up here at the top, there is an ACPM link. Clicking on this will automatically direct me to the main screen of Amazing Charts Practice Management. So our home screen is the front desk. And I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger for you, because we do have the option for our customers to increase the font sizes in Amazing Charts Practice Management. So I want to make sure that everybody in the webinar is able to see my screen okay. So for those of you that may want to see things a little bit larger, you can change the font sizes in ACPM. So Amazing Charts Practice Management is consisted of 6 links over here on the left-hand side of my screen. And the breakdown of the different links is pretty straightforward. Front desk is where you would perform the majority of your front desk tasks for a day. So that would include searching for patients, managing your appointments for the day, and we actually have 2 different places that you can manage your appointments depending on the workflow in your practice. One is right from here. You can do recalls in Amazing Charts Practice Management, so that may be something that you have currently done in your practice management or legacy system that you have today. And this allows you to create reminders for patients that need to come in for certain appointments without actually booking the appointment. And then when they fall within a certain range, you would get flagged, and then you would be able to reach out to that patient and let them know it's time for them to come in for that appointment, test, or procedure. And then there's all of these miscellaneous tasks up here where you could go into the registration screen and register a new patient. All of the information that you would need to register a new patient is right here for you on this screen. The system does allow you to do what we call a mini-reg. So if you just want to get the bare minimum in order to create a patient's chart and book their initial appointment, there's only 3 fields that are required: the name, gender, and date of birth. Of course, you can enter as much information as you would like, but these are the only 3 requirements from our side in order to initially create that patient's chart. So if I went ahead and entered a new patient from here, you'll see once I create this new patient with the minimal information required, and save, it creates their initial chart. And we have quick links built throughout the entire practice management system to help you navigate from screen to screen. So I can actually access the appointment scheduler to now book this patient's appointment right from here by using the drop-down and selecting Appointment Book. And our Appointment Book screen usually is the preference for our practices when managing appointments, because you can see very quickly that there are a lot of setup and customization options in Amazing Charts PM. You can color code a lot of different facets of your schedule. And you can have multiple columns for your resources. And you can easily see all of the patients that are booked on the schedule for the day. And you would learn a lot in the training, the multiple ways that you can actually search and locate appointment availability in ACPM. We have a bulk search option, and also we have different navigation tools right on the appointment scheduling screen. You see down the bottom here, and the calendar over the right to help you locate availability for your patient. And then when a patient actually checks in for their appointment, right from here, you can easily access that patient's chart. So I just demonstrated in how you can get into the appointment scheduling screen right from the patient's chart. But now if I wanted to work backwards and the patient was checking in, I can right-click and launch their chart from here. So from a check-in, check-out point of view, that's really important because front desk is typically spending the majority of their time in the scheduler. And then right from here, once the patient's chart is displayed, you would then be able to review any necessary information that you review each time a patient checks in or checks out, quickly enter the patient's copayment. You'd also be able to easily see outstanding balances for the patients, their insurance information, copay and coinsurance. So the patient's chart in Amazing Charts Practice Management is really a one-stop shop. It will show you the history, perspective of demographics, billing, appointment history, any kind of alerts that someone put on this patient's chart. And you can even color code the different alerts in the system. Claim history, and even statement history. So if the patient had received a statement, you would actually be able to see all of that right from within the patient's chart. So I'm just pulling up a different patient that has a little bit more of a robust chart than the one that I was just on. So everything that you're going to need for that patient is going to live right within their chart. And we know how important eligibility checking is for practices. So there are actually 4 different ways that you can check eligibility in Amazing Charts Practice Management. The system is designed, though, to do automated electronic eligibility checks for any payers that participate. So you as a practice can decide when you want these checks to actually be performed. Do you want the checks to be done the morning of the appointment? Typically, people want it the day before or maybe 2 days before. And you would actually be able to see right on the patient's appointment what the results were from that automated electronic eligibility check. So for Arnold Allen, I know just by looking at his appointment very quickly that his eligibility check came back eligible because he's got a check mark on the top right corner of his appointment. So all the different responses schedule have a different icon associated with them. That front desk screen is also a place where you can see the eligibility responses. So that Manage Appointments pane, that gives you all of the detailed information for your patient's appointments that are coming in for the day. Not only can you take action on those patients right from here, but you can see that there is an eligibility status column. And you can drill into any of the hyperlinks in Amazing Charts Practice Management. Those hyperlinks are located in blue to actually get the details of that check. So if they weren't eligible, you can see why they weren't eligible, versus if they are eligible, if that payer responded back with benefit details, you'd be able to get all of that information right from here. You can also perform your own checks because, of course, maybe when the patient checks in for their appointment, their insurance has changed. So when you do those updates, you can do those checks right from within the patient's chart. So you can see right on this patient's chart, the same place that I would actually enter in their payment information, I can also check eligibility. You can also do it back on that front desk screen under the Manage Appointments. There is a check eligibility link. And finally, also do it right on the scheduling screen. On the individual patient's appointment, you can actually click on it and check the check the eligibility. So you can see how easily, from a front desk perspective, that you're going to be able to not only put in a new patient, but when that patient comes in for their appointment, get that check-in and check-out process completed pretty efficiently, all from one screen. And along with the different customizations available to you from the schedule, you can even color code eligibility responses. So if you want your patients that come back ineligible to be in red, you could do that. You can color code appointment types, so you can easily see all of your new patients versus your established patients, and even your statuses. So again, from a front desk perspective, you would be able to choose whether you want patients that are marked checked in, you want them to turn green, or when patients check out, they turn red, or even if you have a patient that no-shows, you can have a color set so that they turn orange. And you can even run end-of-day lists for your no-show patients, so you can then, of course, charge them if necessary, or maybe just send them a gently worded letter that they've missed their appointment. So now let's get in and start talking about the billing in ACPM. So we allow for both electronic billing and manual billing in ACPM. So the electronic billing is what the provider does on the AC side of the program. So I'm now going to go back into Amazing Charts, and you'll be able to see how easily it is for me to get back into Amazing Charts. Right down here at the bottom, I have an icon with a purple folder indicating it's the Amazing Chart side. And if I click on that, it brings me right to Amazing Charts. And then if I had to go back to ACPM, I just click on the ACPM link. So the electronic part of the billing occurs when the provider is signing off on the patient's encounter in Amazing Charts. So if I pull up a test patient and I launch this patient's encounter, the provider is going to be able to select the CPT codes from this individual patient's visit when they click on the sign off. So we actually have an electronic encounter form available right in Amazing Charts. And this is customizable. So you'd be able to, part of the setup prior to doing your billing, would be able to set all of the custom CPT codes that your providers use. So they'd be able to easily select the level of the visit and any additional CPT codes, and also review that information. They don't have to worry about entering modifiers or, looking into whether or not a referral needs to be linked to the appointment or referring provider. All of that can be done in the practice management system by the biller. And then when they hit sign it, this patient's CPT and ICD code information is going to instantaneously go over to the Amazing Charts practice management system, where the biller would then be able to review that information for the patient right within their chart. And there's multiple ways that the biller can choose to review that information on their preference. They can either pull up each individual chart, or they can work right off the schedule. And then they would be able to quickly review the details of that patient's visit in ACPM, maybe link any modifiers, and then move on to the next patient. We also do manual charge entry. So for any of those patient visits or situations where the provider would not be involved and not need to do that sign-off, you'd be able to enter that information manually in the system. And all of the information that you would need for that patient's claim would all be on one screen for you, whether it's electronic or manual. So you would not need to go to different screens in order to make sure that you have all the information attached to that claim. And then all of the batching for the claims at the end of the day and the transmission of those claims all occurs in one screen as well, the billing screen. So here you would be able to batch up your claims by using the Select Claim feature. And then once you batch your claims, you would validate them and run them through the Amazing Charts Practice Management Scrubber. And then if all of the claims passed, you would then just click on the transmit link. And it would then take all of the claims in that batch and transmit them to the clearinghouse for forward processing. And what's great about Amazing Charts Practice Management is that you don't have to wait 24 hours or 48 hours, depending on your clearinghouse, to find out what your claim status is for that batch. You have direct access right into the Clearinghouse Portal. And within minutes of transmitting that claim batch, you can log in and check on those claims. So I'm just going to quickly bring up our Clearinghouse Portal so you can get a quick look at that. So I think most people are pretty excited to see the portal. So there's a lot of different options in the portal because the fact that all of the electronic claims, the electronic eligibility, the electronic payer response reports, and even the electronic payments from the insurance companies have to go from and to the clearinghouse before they get to the payer or get to Amazing Charts PM. All of that information is accessible right from within the clearinghouse. So I'm on the work screen right now where you actually would go in and you can verify that they did in fact receive the claim batch that you transmitted from ACPM, and you'd be able to see the status of your claims right from here, whether or not all of the claims in the batch had been forwarded to the payer, and if they had been forwarded, you can actually print out a report of your forwarded claims. Or if there were any errors, you'd be able to run a report and get those errors. And then you have the choice whether or not you want to work those errors right in the clearinghouse or go back to Amazing Charts Practice Management and work your errors there. So the clearinghouse does allow you to actually correct the errors right from within the clearinghouse. Obviously, there's certain errors that cannot be corrected in the clearinghouse because they live right in Amazing Charts Practice Management, but the majority of the errors can be corrected and resubmitted right from here. And the clearinghouse really just is comprised of a few links along the top here. And you can see it's pretty easy to navigate. There are additional reports right in the clearinghouse that you can take advantage of too. So we have a lot of robust reporting right in the practice management system, but the clearinghouse also offers some analytical reports for your practice based on claim status, eligibility, and even payments. Our Clearinghouse Portal also offers electronic statements, which is an add-on feature for Amazing Charts Practice Management. So if you don't want to manage your own statements for your patients when you, or if you come on board with Amazing Charts Practice Management, you can sign up to have our third-party vendor, BillFlash, send statements on your behalf. And you would manage all of that, again, right from within the clearinghouse. And then when your claims are forwarded successfully to the payer, those payer acknowledgement reports are, again, accessible right from within the clearinghouse or right from within Amazing Charts Practice Management on that same screen where we batched and transmitted our claims. And then when it comes time to receive payments from the payers, if your payers send back electronic, ERAs, those ERAs come right into Amazing Charts Practice Management, where you'd be able to easily see all of the pending payments for your practice under the bookkeeping application in ACPM. And from here, you would be able to download that ERA in the system, review it for accuracy, and if any manual intervention was required, that could also be done from here. And then once it's ready to be finalized in practice management, you would click and commit it. So if you had a large electronic remittance of 50+ patients, in a matter of just a few clicks, you could have that entire remit committed into the system and all of the payments allocated to the patient's ledgers. Manual insurance payment posting, and that is done from the same screen that you manage your electronic remittances. You would be able to enter manual payments, and the payments are very straightforward to enter in manually, and you'd be able to post the entire EOB manually on one screen. And then we understand how important it is at the end of the day to make sure that you're closing out. So all of those end-of-day reports that you would need in order to close out your day would live within the reporting area of ACPM. We have some end-of-day reports for front desk that allow them to balance their copay drawers. And then, of course, we have reports for the back office to make sure that, all of your payments have been posted, so those electronic remittances and manual insurance payments, if any. And all of our reports are broken out by report type. So you can quickly see our list of reconciliation reports, AR reports, patient reports, analysis reports, appointment reports, and even some audit reports. And our reports do offer filter options so that if you want to run your reports by certain providers, certain locations, payment types, transaction date, payment date, service date, all of that is available to you in ACPM in the report section. And our reports can be saved. So if you like a report, you can save it so that you can refer back to it at another time, or someone else in your practice would have the ability to go in and view that report that you ran. So just to show you an example of one of our payment reports. So we have a lot of different payment reports that you can choose to run if you want to run it by individual plan or by carrier, depending on how you want to group that information on your report. So here's an example of our payer reimbursement analysis report. And you can note that a lot of our reports also show you the percentages of payments or charges that you're getting from your individual payers, so you can, track who is your top payer. So I hope everyone on the call today saw some things that piqued their interest with Amazing Charts Practice Management. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the floor to questions. And if you are interested in seeing what some of our other current practice management users have to say about Amazing Charts PM, we do have testimonials right on our website at amazingcharts.com under Products and under the PM Software tab. I'll also include that link in the follow-up email for those of you that are interested in reading that. So I'm just going to answer some questions now. One person asked, is there multiple ways to access the practice management system from Amazing Charts? Yes. There are multiple ways of doing a lot of different tasks in Amazing Charts Practice Management. I really just focused on a few of those today, but you would learn both in a deep dive demo and also in your training that there's multiple ways to do things in Amazing Charts PM depending on the workflow for your practice. So I only showed you how to access Amazing Charts PM from the main screen of AC, but there are actually 3 other ways right from in Amazing Charts that you can access a patient or ACPM from here. And just to show you another one of those, if in the patient list I have my patient selected down here, this is actually a direct hyperlink to this individual patient's chart in the practice management system. I can also do it if I'm right within the patient's demographic screen in Amazing Charts. I can also easily access the PM system by clicking on this icon. Great question. Another question is, can we print super bills from Amazing Charts PM? That's usually a very popular question from our clients, even though we are trying to get everybody on board with electronic encounters in Amazing Charts. We can offer encounter forms if necessary. Another question is this available now? So if the question, if I'm reading the question correctly, if you're wondering if Amazing Charts Practice Management is available now, absolutely. If you are interested, you can contact our sales department, and I have that also now displayed on the webinar screen, the sales telephone number. You can also get it right from the AmazingCharts.com website. Another question is, how would we set up Amazing Charts PM so that our patients can make payments online via our website? So we're not integrated right now to handle, patients that do payments on our practice's website. But we have a lot of exciting enhancements coming in within the next year. So I'm actually going to be getting a peek at the roadmap for the rest of this year and next year. So we do have some exciting changes and enhancements being made. I'm not sure if that is on our immediate roadmap, but that is something that we are going to be considering in the future. Great question. Another question was, can I get a list of participating insurances for eligibility verification and billing, which I'm assuming you're talking about electronic claims submission. Absolutely. We can get that information to you. And what's great is, obviously, you don't have access to it right now, but that's another thing that our clients have access to right within our portal. Our Clearinghouse Portal has all of those lists right in it for you, so that once you do have access to it, of course, if you had any question on what payers they participate with electronic claim submission, ERAs, and eligibility verification, they have a payer list right within their website. But of course, we can provide that to you after today's webinar. Can I determine when the eligibility checks are run? Yes, I mentioned that earlier in the webinar that depending on your practice's workflow, if you want those automated electronic eligibility checks to be performed a day before patients are coming in for their appointment or 2 days before, that's something that you can determine with your assigned practice management implementation specialist, who would be in charge of basically customizing and building your practice during your implementation. They would be able to set that up for you the way that you want that check to be performed. Absolutely. And then it looks like one more question. Just having a little bit of trouble getting my question box to come. We have a third-party biller, more interested in the automatic eligibility check. Any way to purchase just that? So that's something that you would want to discuss with our sales team. So if you have any specific questions on the pricing structure or just being able to purchase certain areas of the product, please don't hesitate to contact our sales department. Again, I'll put that number up for you. It's also right on our website, or you can definitely reach out to me after today's session and I can get you in touch with the sales representative. You should all have my email from registering for this webinar. Are the CPT codes only entered by the physicians? No. So again, you do have the ability to manually enter charges in Amazing Charts Practice Management if you do have some providers that just will refuse to do any of the coding. We definitely try to highly recommend that you get them at a bare minimum just to check off, you know, the E&M code. So just by checking off the E&M code from the visit and hitting sign off, it will bring that charge information over to Amazing Charts Practice Management, and then the biller could add any additional CPT codes or again make any other modifications to the charge prior to billing it out of the system. But again, there is the opportunity to do it manually if that is a must. And then someone asked, could you please show us how to receive a bulk payment and how to post that? So I briefly went over it. Let me just go back into Amazing Charts PM. So when you get that bulk payment, if you get it electronically, it comes right into the bookkeeping area of Amazing Charts Practice Management. And once you've confirmed that you actually received the EFT or the paper check from that payer, you'll be able to download it so that you can then manage the details of that check in ACPM and make any necessary modifications to it if that was ever required. And that's all done from one screen. So this patient on this payment is just by themselves. There's only one, but this could have 50 line items if this was a larger electronic remittance. But you can manage multiple patients on the screen at once, and then when that review or manual process is done, if you have to make any corrections or changes, you just click on commit and it disperses all of the transactions for all of those patients on that ERA accordingly, and then that information can be viewed from their ledger individually or on reports. And if anybody has any, really specific workflow questions, or depending on the specialty of your practice, that's something that I would recommend that you do with our demo specialist, Peter O'Driscoll. We have a great demo specialist that would be more than happy to do a one-on-one demo for anybody on today's session if you have further questions on workflow or just specifics as to how the system handles payments and eligibility and so forth. Great. So thank you again, everyone, for attending today's webinar. Please do not hesitate to reach out to myself if you have any questions, or again, I've put up the sales number on the webinar so that for those of you that may be interested in speaking with the sales department or getting a more of a deep dive demo, you can contact them at your convenience and they will schedule that with you. And again, this was recorded, so you all will be receiving the recorded version of today's webinar later on today. Great. Well, thank you, everyone, for your time today. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Take care, everyone.